Appreciate it. Now
Thanks, David.
let's bring in Indiana Senator Jim Banks. He's member of the Armed Services Committee and NRSC Vice Chair. So he's interested in what's happening, what's coming up with those midterms, as we all are. First of all, the Somali pirates. I mean, granted, it's one tanker, and this may be a sort of a one-off move, but going into the Gulf of Aden down in the south, of course, the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has lost control of. But the fact that they're reaching out to other areas, does that concern you?
Well, sure. But at the end of the day, what President Trump and the military is doing to push back, clear the strait, it's significant. It's working. The blockade, the economic measures are effective. But the military, our military actions, what we've done to wipe out the defense industrial base in Iran, we've eliminated 85% of the ballistic missiles in Iran. And we put all of these proxy groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, or even Somali pirates, on notice that we're not going to let you get away with it anymore. These terrorist groups and the regime in Iran have been used to, for 47 years, getting away with it. And President Trump has told them, you're not going to get away with it anymore. This is going to be more severe, and we're going to be tougher on you. You're going to feel the pain more than you've ever felt before until you come to the table, clear the strait, and ensure us that you will never have a nuclear weapon. And President Trump's legacy is going to be that he was the president that brought peace to the Middle East and to the whole wide world by preventing Iran from ever having a nuclear weapon. We can all be grateful and proud of that.
Now, Secretary Bessent has come out and said that this economic D-Day that the president is rolling out will prevent the resumption, or could prevent the resumption of fighting, of actual attacks on Iran. Some people are saying that that's exactly what we need right now, that we never finished the deal when we started it back in the end of February, March, that we should have done it then, and we should be doing it now, perhaps in addition or as a complement to the economic D-Day. What do you think?
Well, I think the economic D-Day, the as you talked about with your last guest with Victoria, the building upon the maximum pressure campaign from the first Trump administration, that which was very effective, but learning from that and making it even tougher on Iran and isolating them, as well as never forget that 90% of the oil that flows out of Iran through the Strait of Hormuz goes to China, our biggest adversary. So
right.
if any other country like China helps the Iranians against the United States of America, there will be hell to pay for them as well. These economic D-Day sanctions and this approach is not just targeted toward Iran, but any actor that would try to assist them or help them too. So then you have that backed up by the threats and the actions of our military. And what President Trump has done is he's brought Iran to its knees. It's just a matter of time before they come back once again and beg for a real permanent deal. And when that happens, gas prices in America are going to plummet. Our economy is going to benefit from it. And most importantly, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon pointed at America to endanger our kids and our grandkids.
We do, of course, have a midterm election coming up. And the question is whether all this can happen before the midterms, whether voters will see some signs that we've turned a corner in ending this conflict. Even the Iranians, by the way, are now referring to the midterm elections. They know that the president and Republicans are particularly sensitive about how all this could affect the midterms. How do you think it's going to affect the midterms, assuming we don't have a clear resolution at the time that they happen?
Well, I give President Trump so much credit because he doesn't look at this as an election issue. He looks at this as a long-term ensurement that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon ever pointed at us or at Israel, our allies, right, or our troops abroad. And some things are more important than elections. So
I got it.
President Trump has always
taken again, the election is coming, and there are a lot of Republicans who are concerned about being reelected or going against a competitor. How do you think the war is going to play into the elections?
Well, I think we got to bring gas prices back down, and we got to get the economy moving and the housing market moving and the quality of life for all Americans to continue to improve. And there are lots of good signs in the economy that is happening. And the good news is that immediately upon striking a deal with Iran, gas prices will plummet and Americans will feel better from it.
Well, we've seen that happen before when it appeared we were going to come to a resolution. But the one thing that clearly Republicans have going for them is the movement, the split in the Democratic Party that we saw exemplified in the primaries this week, where people like Congressman Moskowitz came out and won an election against a very hardcore socialist who was running against him, Mr. Larkin, almost 2-1. How do you think that's going to affect the midterms? I mean, it appears that they are winning some primaries, the DSA, but when it comes to the general election in November, and a lot of independents who presumably are not too happy about this turn to the hard left by Democrats are going to be voting. How do you think the independents are going to take the actual midterms themselves?
Yeah, I don't. Most Americans, especially those in the middle, don't want to turn America into China or a communist country. And that's what this comes down to. The Democrats are wholly owned by the DSA, the Democrat Socialist wing of their party. I mean, at this point, I don't bet on elections, but if I were betting on elections, I would bet for the Democrat Socialists to win Democrat primaries because they own the Democrat Party. And each week we've seen them win primary elections. El Said in Michigan, Tallarico in Texas is a DSA Bernie-backed socialist running for Senate in Texas. And then you see the results in Florida this week, Minnesota. The socialists are winning. They've taken over the Democrat Party. They're winning their primaries, but they're not going to win in November because Americans don't want to turn this great country into a communist country,
well,
the greatest country in the history of the world.
They did lose in Wisconsin in that Senate race with Ms. Hong. And as I mentioned, Jared Moskowitz won the primary where he was challenged by a DSA, really hardcore DSA loyalist. And I just want to play a little soundbite from Congressman Moskowitz talking about that race. Roll it.
I got people who live in the community that have, escaped Cuba and escaped Venezuela, have escaped socialism. They love this country. And they see, things on the DSA platform like abolish the Senate and abolish prisons and open borders. And they hear them talking about celebrating 100 years of Fidel Castro, and they just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of Americans don't know what's going on. They see the DSA platform, which not only calls for, socialist policies, but also, and not just defund the police, but defund the Pentagon. They're against an armed forces in the United States to protect this country from foreign invasions, et cetera.
Yeah, it's crazy. Jared Moskowitz and Tom Suozzi in New York and a few of the more common sense moderate Democrats circulated a pledge among their colleagues in Congress that said, we are capitalists, not socialists. We love America. We're not ashamed of America. We want law and order, not lawlessness. They circulated that pledge, and only 10 Democrats in the House out of 212 signed it. So when I'm talking about the socialists taking over the Democrat Party, I don't know what proves it more than that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Senator Jim Banks, great to see you, sir. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.